How can you impose democracy by killing millions of people? It's a dictatorship, not democracy. You can't impose it. Those who call themselves Democrats have seen scenes where people were prevented from joining assemblies. We've seen scenes where forces landed in assemblies to force deputies to take texts. We've seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators. But they call themselves Democrats, and we're called Persians. If that's democracy, I repeat, we don't want this democracy.
Hello brothers and sisters, I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from now. This is the time to appreciate such good African leaders who are trying to elevate the way things have been done in Africa now. Those leaders that are carrying out a revolution in Africa and trying to make us a better continent. Now, these leaders include Ibrahim Traore, Julius Malema, and the rest. Those that are trying so much as they can and sacrificing their lives for the betterment of this continent and for the coming generations. Do you really believe that a revolution can be carried out in Africa at the moment without the interference of the Western countries? Now, it is just the other day that the Western countries, the Western media was all over Ibrahim Traore and trying to tarnish his name. But the African continent, together with the diaspora and the Caribbean, stood out to defend this guy. So let's watch this video of the development and whatever is piecing the Western countries of whatever Ibrahim Traore is doing. Thank you so much.
Today, the problem of Africa are men and women who occupy positions of leadership and influence who are greedy. And you remember many times people ask, are they not satisfied? Greed does not ask that question because greed is insatiable. Greed can never be satisfied. You know, this continent of ours is a great continent in prospect. Think about statistics. I think about how we still are divided. We are the only continent on earth that still is referred to as Anglophone, to say that we speak English. Francophone, to say that some of us speak French. Lusophone, to say that some speak Portuguese. Arabophone, to say that some speak Arabic. And very soon we will be called Sinophone because some of us speak Chinese or Mandarin. The battle in Cameroon is sometimes depicted as if it were a conflict between English-speaking and French-speaking. We must exorcise the ghost of dominance, being dominated by others. And it can only come through leadership. And that leadership must come from us. Whether you are in Monrovia, in Liberia, the question that I'm asking you to come up with today, what are you going to do with it in Monrovia? When you are in Dakar, in Senegal, that home of a great African, Leopold Sédar Senghor, what are you going to do about it when you are in the Gambia, the home of Dawuda Kairaba Jawara? What are you going to do about it? We must provide leadership at all levels because, as Kwame Nkrumah once said, we can solve our economic and political problems, but the most difficult problem to solve is the problem of our attitude and our mental capacity, because the colonial project was of such a nature that it taught us to hate ourselves. We must no longer hate ourselves. We must no longer think that movies made in Hollywood and Bollywood are the movies that we must watch. We must now have movies made in Nollywood and Bongowood and Riverwood in Africa. That is the only way in which we are going to provide leadership in that sector. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Why are we not providing leadership in that area? How can it be that our leadership in our sports sector is dominated from outside? But politics have run after us for too long. It is time for them to meet our courage. And that is why we are talking about leadership. And it is upon us to provide that leadership. You know, in 1983, in his little book, The Trouble with Nigeria, Chinua Achebe writes of Nigeria, but it could very well be about Africa, that the problem of Nigeria, and I dare say Africa, is simply and squarely one of leadership. Until the day we resolve that problem, our hospitals, our universities, our sectors will never be what we want them to be. It is urgent business. Those of you who are from Zimbabwe will remember the many words of Robert Gabriel Mugabe before he overstayed in power. He was as clear as clarity can be about African dignity. You cannot be a leader if you have no dignity. Dignity is the mother's milk of true leadership. Those of you who are from Mozambique, and you want to know that the name of your country, Mozambique, is after an Arab sheikh called Ibn Bik. That is how Mozambique acquired its name. The home of Samora, Moises Machel. And I want you to go and read about leadership, not just from Samora, but from Eduardo Mondlane. And how they died for that which is good and right. Leadership at all levels is what is going to change the continent of Africa. I'm focusing on these individuals because, as they say in Hindu philosophy, when the politics of a country stumbles, everything crumbles. No matter how well-intentioned you are, if the toxicity of politics is alive and well, then everybody dies. If you doubt me, you go to Khartoum now, if you can go at all. Those of you who are from La Côte d'Ivoire, and you will remember in La Côte d'Ivoire, in the early days of Félix Houphouët-Boigny, although a Francophile, he was proud. And if you want to meet any proud people on earth, meet Côte d'Ivoirians. They love their country. And go to Abidjan or Grand Bassam, and you see pride. Pride is not a bad thing if it is not something that leads you into arrogance, because pride is the mother of excellence. When you are proud, you want to do things well. Those of you who are from Mali, many of you who are from Mali do not remember that there once lived a great man there, Modibo Keita. Modibo Keita and the Osagie for Kwame Nkrumah formed a union which did not go very far, and Patrice Emery Lumumba was prepared to be part of that union. Leadership, selfless leadership. Those of you who are from Namibia, and there are two great politicians who came out of that land, Namibia. One of them did not even go very far, but those of you who are from Namibia and those Africans, I want you to go and read the life not of Sam Nujoma, but Andimba, Haman Toivo, Yatoivo. These were great men. And what they said is that in order to serve the continent of Africa, we must be dedicated to her. Those from Lesotho, the island kingdom, the home of my friend King Lethiye. See what has happened. You may have had your problems, but leadership is about dedication and being culturally aware. I mention Lesotho because part of the African problem is that culturally we have been decimated. We have a saying in Kiswahili, mwachamila ni mtumwa. If you abandon your culture, you become a slave. If Africa is going to realize the potential, the positive aspects of our culture must be given their pride of place. Those of you who are from Nigeria, I've said it times without number when I'm in Nigeria, whether I'm in Nasarawa or in Kaduna or in Anambra or in Bayelsa, I keep on saying the day Nigeria gets it right, that is the day Africa wakes up. You only have to read the story of the early years of Nigeria during the days of the great.
Hello. I want to speak briefly about Burkina Faso and their president, Ibrahim Traore. As an African-American woman, I am so proud of President Traore and so happy for the people of Burkina Faso. I want to state for the record that African Americans have nothing to do with any assassination attempts, any destabilization of the country, or any criticism of President Traore. I don't know any American, and I don't know every American, but I don't know any American that even knows who General Michael Langley is. I actually just found out who he was 2 days ago. But when you see black people being put in a position like that, and then turn on their heels to criticize another leader in another country, that is by design. And they do not speak for us. They are ruining the reputation of African Americans globally, making people think that we feel this way. We have our own problems in America.
Greetings. So, I am an American, and even though I'm unable to fight in the war in Burkina Faso with President Ibrahim Traore, I stand with you and I support you, Ibrahim Traore. Not everyone in America is going for this bullshit. The government has no reason to be, or grounds to be, trying to take your country's gold and trying to just bully you and bogart and just take what they want, trying to hunt you down, trying to kill you, murder you. I do not agree with it. I do not agree with it. And it's time for all of us to stand up. All, and not just blacks, not just the African diaspora, but everyone. Everyone. We don't have a right. And when I say we, I mean the government. They don't have a right, because I would never do anything like that. I would never do no shit like that. Going over into another country, and then when you can't get what you want, you're going to try to bully them. And then you use little black Uncle Toms to go and do your dirty work. Stand your ground. Burkina Faso, stand your ground. Stand your ground. And I call upon all the African diaspora, all, help this country. Help. Stop hiding behind your presidential roles and your governmental roles, and hiding because you're afraid they might do something to you. They probably put some money in your pocket. Well, it's time to stand up. It's time to let this shit go. It's time to come together. So, Ibrahim Traore, we love you here in America. We love you and we support you.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you are watching me from now. I really love the fact that we are talking about one of the great sons of Africa at the moment, one of the leaders who have been adversely admired across Africa and the world, leaders who are actually after change, those who want to transform the way Africa has been for years. Now, we know, and as much I know, that Africa has had leaders, some good leaders, but they did not end up doing whatever they did mean or they did want for their populations. Now, we can have a real discussion of whatever happened to our leaders. We can talk a lot of the things that happened to our leaders, but one thing still remains that most of the leaders we had in Africa have not ended up well. And I'm really glad to see that Africa as a continent is uniting behind one Ibrahim Traore, Malema, and those vocal leaders who want to transform or who want to see Africa transform. It must be remembered that the president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, took power in 2022 in whatever was known as a revolution, you know, and whatever the Western media has made you to put it like a dictatorship, you know, as a coup d'etat. Now, this revolution is actually a progressive one and a very popular one because people are talking about it in Africa, in the Caribbean, across the diaspora. Everyone is very interested with whatever is going on in Burkina Faso. It must be remembered that Ibrahim Traore has been working on key values and principles, and one of them is to make sure development reach every part of Burkina Faso, you know, that not only a few people or those ones that have the privilege to receive whatever the government does, but the fact that everyone pays taxes and they enjoy their taxes to the fullest, in that you pay taxes and you see your taxes building roads, you pay taxes and you get good medical care. You don't have to travel to Turkey because you're suffering from kidney failure. You don't have to travel to the UK or US to get some good medical services. You can't get them in your own country because the country has God, the country has resources, and there is no any other way to complain that the country lacks anything, because the previous regimes allowed the exploitation of the mineral resources. And what do you get in such a case? You get few individuals who enrich themselves by allowing the Western powers to exploit and accumulate more wealth from your country. Now, in return, these people are given power, you know, absolute power, in that they only talk about democracy, of which the people do not enjoy the democracy. Now, these individuals now enjoy looting of money, of public resources. Now, they can be as much as corrupt as they want because the Western systems will now support them, you know. And as much as we know that the few leaders who have rose to be against or those who have objected these malicious laws, these malicious ways of exploiting and extorting from African continent, they have not ended up well. We can talk and we can mention names and the list is very endless. Now, Africa has never run short of good leaders. It is us, the people. It is us who have never had the interest of supporting one of our own. It's very good to see that Africa is uniting to support one Ibrahim Traore. And I love the fact that the Caribbean and the diaspora are well informed of whatever is going on in Africa, and they are very much ready to do whatever it takes to protect the sovereignty of the African continent and that of the African leaders. Now, I've been talking about the lie that was told to us about having national sovereignty and all these stories that were created of us getting independence, that we were given independence, of which we did fight for the independence. our ancestors, our grandparents did fight for the independence, And I remember my grandparent telling me stories of him going to the bush to fight, and fighting imperialism, of which has since returned to Africa. It has never left Africa, because we got some few leaders who masqueraded themselves as those who want to bring change. They masqueraded themselves as people who carry absolute responsibility, and they want to change the fate of the African continent. Later on, we realized that even the imperialists were better than those black people we elected as leaders, or those that we put in power and trusted them to actually do good and actually change the way the African continent was working. I love when Traore rejects whatever he frames as neocolonial influence, especially from France. You know how France has France is running West Africa as its own company, as their empire, and it has never since left as West Africa for the longest time. Now you come to Africa, they have divided countries into Francophone, Anglophone, and all these other, and we are very, very glad that I'm talking French, you're talking English. Don't you see that as a division? And that's the way they divided us. And that's the way it was easy for them to colonize us. Now, imagine someone coming to Africa and he has to control 2 billion minds, That's very, very hard. So they had to divide us. 200 million Africans were scattered across outside Africa. Then the 1.3 billion who remained in Africa, whatever is happening right now. They are being objected to laws that they do not want. They are being taken to a series of exploitation, and a series of poverty, just from childhood to until that time you're married and until you die. A system was created in Africa to keep you in poverty, that you go to school, spend much of your time studying, thinking that there's some miracles that is going to happen. And the biggest part was brainwashing the people by using religion. The true religion was not taught in Africa. A distorted religion was taught to us. And we were meant to believe that there is miracles that can happen and you can just wake up and God can bless you without working, All you need to do is give offerings, or you need to give tithe and all those things. I'm not a preacher myself, but I do believe that every other person needs to work for them to get whatever they want. You need to chase your dreams, and you just do not need to go to a church, a temple, a mosque, and pray and expect something miraculous to happen. This is the lie we were taught. This is the lie we are still being taught by our own black preachers. And we've since bought this, and we believe that there is some miracles happening, and there is somehow someone who is going to bless us without working. Very, very wrong. You can take your time and read the Financial Times Article 1. You're going to understand whatever I'm saying, that us being brainwashed was the biggest achievement of the Western systems. Let you know that from today. Now, Ibrahim Traore has been talking about the self-reliance and resource of nationalism, in that this does not belong to me alone. This belongs to the people of this country. This is not mine. This is ours. This is the kind of leaders we want. The self-reliance part of Africa is very, very vital. We've been talking a lot about how we want to improve Africa, how we want to bring back the children of Africa. You must read something about Thomas Sankara from the Wikipedia, and you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn why he was taken down and why people like Patrice Lumumba never existed, like they were never left to exist. Now, you must actually understand the central positioning of Africa and the ideologies that were sold to Africa over time, that you grew up knowing a lie, and since then you've been knowing a lie for the longest time. And however much I try to talking to you, I won't erase that at the same time. And I like the way Ibrahim Traore is promoting whatever is African. He's promoting agricultural industrialization in Burkina Faso. How I wish this could be the mind of my president. This could be the mind of the president you have back in your country. This could be us in Africa having a single president who has some good ideologies for Africa. A president who is visioned to see Africa as a superpower in the world. Why are we being called third world countries, but we are the one who feed the world with mineral resources? Why are we still being called third world countries, but we are the cradle of human beings? Why is Africa still being considered as the poorest countries, but each and every other country built their wealth on through the backs of the black community, which is African? I really suffer from much pain while thinking about Africa, when thinking about the atrocities that have been committed against this continent of Africa. But we still laugh. We still have generations that still believe that someone is coming to save us, and we must not save ourselves. Now, we must, in one way or the other, fight for whatever is yours, and stand, be principled. Just don't be turned left, right, and center because of the manipulation that has been brought to you, and you think that everything is fine. Nothing is fine. We must install order, discipline, and civil duty to all the black Africans, that we must not allow someone else to think that they are very superior, and that they can do anything to our leaders at any given time. Why do you think Russia is a superpower today? Because it consists of white people? No. Russia is a superpower just because they have protected whatever is theirs. Very principled country, a country that understands the civil of duty, a country that understands order. And when we have such a continent in Africa, we are going to enjoy so much whatever is ours. Why do we still have problems as the black continent? Why do we still have third world countries in Africa? This is to demoralize the development that is happening in Africa. And we must not confuse whatever is happening to Africa as a revolution, And I do say this, a revolution is that which is being done by the locals, not that leader who travels to the White House, then comes to convince you he's doing a revolution. What type of revolution is there when you're traveling to the White House? What type of revolution is there when you travel to France to meet Emmanuel Macron? I'm not against that. You can go meet for personal business. But when it contains and entails anything that entails the good of the country, they do not stand for that, They always put their countries first. Why don't we put our countries first? That has been the message of Ibrahim Traore. We must do some youth empowerment in Africa, and we must change the education system in Africa. Why do we still have the same education system in Africa? Why do we still have the same systems running since we were given independence? How dumb are we to accept things that were brought to us by the same people who colonized us, and by the same people who our ancestors and grandfathers fought so hard for us to have liberation, for us to have freedom, for us to have our own government, of which they later on came, altered everything. Then they installed their own puppets here in Africa. Do we still believe that all these that we have in Africa is for the benefit of Africans? Now you can go read Reddit, Article 15. You are going to understand that Africa has come a long way, and Africa is going far than it came from. That at least for during the pre-colonial period than the post-colonial period, you can argue that so many other times But the damage you are getting right now is the damage even we didn't get back then, you know. I really, really love to talk about integrity and anti-corruption and ethical leadership. But when I mention that, you don't know any other African leader close to that. They are all corrupt to the core. They all love ethical. They all lack ethical leadership. They are very unethical, zero integrity in them, very corrupt to the core. This is the Africa we are talking about. This is the leadership that wants to change the course of this continent. How are we going to achieve anything meaningful if we still have the same leadership in Africa? We need young leadership, young and vibrant, not just young and corrupt, you know. And we really need an administration which takes care of its people, not its own pockets, you know. We do not need to take to power people who are very corrupt and people who really think that they are sent to power to loot and maybe in one way or the other to get richer and richer. How are we going to change Africa if we are not going to do whatever is good for this continent? I love Ibrahim Traore. I want to see Africa working. I want to see each and any other African enjoying the fruits and the fact that they're African, not just because someone thinks that they need to loot each and everything that we have, but those people with absolute mandate to take Africa to the far side of a revolution that is currently taking place right now. Now, we also need to understand the fact that Africa's come a long way, as I've said, and we need a cultural revival because we're having a problem right now in Africa. The national identity, we are losing it so fast. Tell me how comes we have no culture in Africa anymore? That we've copied the Western system, that some of us even think that we are Europeans. Some of us even think that we're Americans. Very wrong of you. You know, there is a proverb in my local language which says that anyone who goes against his culture has messed up himself. Like anyone who does not understand where he comes from and where he's heading to in terms of the cultural beliefs and the cultural standards is a lost human being. Like, how are you not going to know how your parents lived? We do not say we entirely need to dress like our parents, but we do not need to copy the negative culture from the Western side. Some of the things happening in Africa is due to pressure, you know, that young and vibrant people in Africa want to dress like those in the West, want to act, want to have a relationship like that of the West. They want to copy everything. It might not be bad, but you are losing yourself, you know. You always have lost yourself and your identity when you go astray and when you think that someone else's culture is better than yours. Even when you live in your own house and you visit a friend, then they have a good house. You do not go to demolish the one you have and start living outside, hoping to get a new house like the one you saw. No, that's not the case. Everyone has different standards and every other culture is better, you know, and it's good. Just appreciate where you are. Appreciate whatever you have. That's the message I have for you today. Thank you so much for having listened to this very, very long I do not want to call it a speech, but we're trying to change Africa. We try to change how we think, and we're not doing this for the views. We are doing this for the betterment of Africa. One day I might not be alive, but if this message reaches so many other people, if this message reaches those people who really want to to see Africa transformed, then we are good to go. But if I live my 50, 60, 70 years and I do not bring a change to my continent, it's better than I was not born. You know, I'm doing this for the betterment of Africa. I'm doing this to see a one united front of the Black community. Thank you so much for having taken the time to watch this video. Brothers and sisters, I really appreciate I've been on camera for very long. Thank you. See you later.